Welcome back to Studio 5. Today, a relationship reality check for all couples. In this day and age where you can really reconnect with anyone from your past, any past relationship with just the click of a button, what do you do when an old flame or an old crush reaches out?
Could be a good thing, could be a bad thing. Studio 5 relationship coach Matt Townsend joins us. This is particularly concerning for couples. Study we saw last year from the UK says Facebook is a factor in 30% of divorces. That is shocking.
Huge. See, but it's not just because they're contacting us. Sometimes it's because your wife's doing Facebook on her iPad in bed. And that's just as bad. So, but you've got to watch out for this. You don't take this lightly. So you're going to see me come off stronger on this than probably anything else that I've ever talked about. Because you got to shut this bad boy down. I call it the tsunami crush. Okay? Because of Facebook, it's this old crush coming that happened years ago, and then waves of this old crush have been going for years, and then it sweeps over your family and destroys your family. The tsunami crush. 4 things to watch out for, okay? You ready? First one, believe that past crushes can have destructive power. Everybody tends to underestimate that. Don't ever underestimate that an old fling or an old crush can't hurt you today.
Okay, like it's been 30 years. It's been 40 years. You're still saying that
they are
happily married for 30, 40 years?
Yeah.
It's still going to...
See, the problem is we minimize it. Like, no, he just went through a divorce, and I saw him at the reunion, and he just needs someone to talk to. Can I not talk to an old friend? And then we try to minimize it by saying it's a friend. It's not a friend. It's an old fling. And we'll get into it. But that old fling possessed chemistry. And that chemistry still exists in your thoughts and in your feelings. And it's going to come back. So the flat-out rule is you've got to know an event that happens in Japan can create devastation on another island, even if it's 5 hours later. There is devastation in that gap. So over time, these things grow energy, they grow power, and it can destroy. So you got to get that in your head. Number 2, don't be deceived by the delay. Don't be deceived by the delay. Oh, sorry, I guess let's prepare and prevent, then we'll do the delay. We've got to prepare and prevent. So if you know a tsunami's coming, or you live on a coastal plain or whatever, and you know you're going to get in trouble, you know there's a chance, wouldn't you need to prepare and make a plan so that you have a plan to not be inundated by the tsunami? So you and your partner need to sit down and make very real rules about what's tolerated and what's not with past flings. I personally, my rule is if you've ever kissed them, wanted to kiss them, or dated them seriously, you know what? Any physical activity, if you've ever had it, they're not on Facebook with you.
They are not your friend on Facebook.
They are, you are shunning them.
Well,
shun.
I feel shunned.
You're officially shunned. You can't mess with it. Because that chemistry, it doesn't die. It's just stored in memory.
Do you find it almost builds sometimes over time?
Oh, it will.
Yeah.
Especially when you start comparing your present-day reality with your boring, obnoxious, kind of selfish partner to that really cool, amazing 17-year-old that was the lifeguard. Oh, man, do you remember the lifeguard? Anyway, you can't compare, because, you know, now your husband has a gut and he never helps around the house, but that guy would have helped around the house 20 years ago. The reality is we're not comparing apples to apples. We're comparing a relationship when we were 17 or 20 or 25 to a relationship now that you're 45. It's not going to compare. So make rules, create preparation, talk to each other, have very real strict rules about what we will tolerate, what we won't, especially not just with Facebook, but with your reunions. When reunions are coming up this year, you go with your partner, you be by their side the entire time. Even if you don't want to, you be there. I'd be very careful about having any other parties or meetings or people with, I can't tell you how many affairs I see from this.
From reunions or from Facebook or from something like that.
It's horrible, and it's hard to fix.
So when we talk about the Facebook rules, you suggest, again, if you've kissed them, had any sort of physical you know, attraction or relationship with them, they should not be on your Facebook feed. They should not be your friend. How open or accessible should your partner's Facebook page be to you?
Total transparency is the rule. We leave it way open. We know everyone's passwords. There should be, you shouldn't really have a need for privacy, even though you might give each other privacy. There shouldn't need, you should always have access. I just think it's a simple rule. If I know that my wife can always access my stuff, honestly, my wife accesses my Facebook more than I do. So if I know that she always can and will, it just gives me something, some strength.
It's a check.
It's a total check.
Is it okay if I tell my wife, hey, this old friend of mine from many years ago has approached me. I'm Facebook friending, whatever. Can I, if I tell her and I tell her that's okay, and if she has transparency, is that okay or not?
I wouldn't even mess. If it was an old fling, I wouldn't even. No. It's just a very simple answer. No, no need. I mean, really, what's the need? Well, yeah, but we dated for 2 years. Okay. So what's the need today?
Yeah, when you break it down to the why, there really isn't
There's
an
not
answer.
a need presently. And here's the reason why. Don't be deceived by the delay. This delay is not a delay. When you guys were best buddies back in high school or college, chemistry was created. That chemistry is stored in thoughts, okay? They're called behavioral scripts. Your brain made a script about that person. I call it BS for short. And with all that behavioral scripting, BS, stored memories and chemistry. And the minute you go back to that chemistry, you reignite the chemistry. That's why you can pick up with old friends that you haven't seen for years, and you're back at the same place again, because you're in the same script. Those scripts are delayed, but they still exist. And then if you foster them by thinking about them, by talking to your girlfriends about them, by when your partner's a jerk, by going and just conjuring it up and working that thing, you're going to keep the thoughts alive. And then when it hits, when that tsunami comes aboard, it has the full energy of years ago. It's messed up. Don't be deceived.
Essentially, you're kidding yourself if you think you can just peek in on a former partner's page now and then and not have it affect how you think or feel.
Because think of it, you all know why you're peeking in, okay? It's because you're sickos and you're stalking people. But when you're stalking, you know when you're looking at their life, and you're like, oh, they've got a boat. I've always wanted a boat, and we never had a boat. Oh, look at his abs. Oh, he's got abs. I wish my husband had abs. You start comparing and contrasting, and the minute you do, the thoughts and the chemistry starts to come back. Last but not least, when you find yourself getting caught up in this tsunami, the crush, get to higher ground. Get yourself to higher ground, which simply means get to your higher values, your higher principles, and your higher priorities. Start imagining, how do you want your children to remember you? As the one that threw the entire family away to go get some crush from 20 years ago? The odds are, by the way, if you have an affair or a crush and it starts an affair, the affairs don't work. I don't know if anybody knows that, but statistically, enormous high failure rate. 90+% of affairs don't work. It's not going to create a long-lasting relationship. It's a tsunami. It feels like it's fun to ride for a while, but eventually it crashes down, takes everything out that's important. So you've got to get to higher ground, your higher principles, your higher values, focus on your family, focus on your faith, focus on your closest friends, and get them around you in a way that you're protected.
And it comes back to why. Why do you need to? And especially if the other friend reaches out, what are their motives? Why are they reaching out?
I tell you, it's dangerous.
Okay, you just finished up doing a fantastic little date night a little while ago.
Killer date night. You know what we're doing? See, we can't reach everybody that we want to reach. So we filled up this date night with Peter Breinholt, and now what we're doing is this. We have a brand new site, and if you go to Date Nights with Matt, you can go right now. This brand new site has everything I ever do. Every date night every date night from here on out that I have, we're putting on the site. Every women's class, my marriage classes, my singles classes, everything's on this date night. So right now, it's only $27 a month, and you can get everything I do anywhere in the country. You get all my audios, you get everything I've ever done. Now, the date night with Peter, we're putting it on there. So date night with Peter that we just did, Peter Breinholt, plus 5 other date nights are already on there, and it's normally $27, but if you enter in a studio code, a code, what's it called? A coupon code.
Yeah, promo
Studio
code.
5. Just Studio 5, you'll get it for $1. You get a 1-month trial for $1, and you can go to my site. You can see all my women's classes, see everything. You can watch the Peter Breinholt concert, so an hour of Peter, an hour of me, and every other date night we've ever had.
For $1.
$1. Studio 5 is the password. Go to Date Nights with Matt.
It's like keeping a little Matt in your pocket everywhere you go. Everywhere you might travel
right there.
around. Thanks, Maddie.
Thanks,
We'll be
kids.
right back with more in Studio 5.